Hi there everyone, I'm Mr. Unimportant and it is D&December. I imagine you're wondering what D&December is? Well, it's a theme month created by ProJared, a YouTuber who had decided to make a bunch of videos in December in celebration of his favorite role-playing game, Dungeons & Dragons. I'm of much the same mindset and I thought that I'd throw my hat in the ring. So, on that, I have decided to tell some stories kind of off the cuff with a few edits that I'm sure you've already noticed. And I'll be telling these stories based off of prompts given to me by some of my players, some friends, maybe commenters, who knows. The first one is going to be, actually this isn't exactly a prompt as much as my friends demanded that I tell this story, but I'm going to say that the prompt in this case is Triumphs in Role-Playing. Now our story takes place in the land of Talengard, a campaign setting that is the basis of the Way of the Wicked campaign, a fantastic third-party Pathfinder campaign. In this campaign you don't play as the heroes, you are in fact a bunch of villains, a bunch of outlaws, attempting to bring down Talengard because they have wronged you. And you are doing this with the aid, and perhaps in reverence, to the evil god Asmodeus, or Asmodeus. I'm not going to say the name again. People have their own opinions on how it is pronounced. I like Asmodeus because I watched the Redwall cartoon, and that's what the snake called himself, and he was evil and scary. Now, near the beginning of the campaign, you are tasked to take down a fortress, a fully stocked fortress, complete with 100 guards and several other more powerful beings that are protecting it. Wizards, a couple of angelic creatures, things like that. Now the party, being about level 4 when this task is thrust upon them, are in no position to simply take down the castle by storming it, by just bringing it down the way that you might expect a party to do, just to kick the door in, take down all the encounters and things like that. No, the idea is actually you have 4 weeks to try and weaken the castle's defenses as much as possible, and eventually push your way in. And every day of those weeks is valuable, because things are happening in the nearby town that supports this little fortress. The fortress, by the way, being the only viable entrance through this gigantic wall that spans the entire country, where you want a army of savage bugbears to come rolling down. With the fortress there, however, they can't get through. That's why it's your job to take it on, to spread chaos and help in your evil plan to bring down Talengard. Now, I was GMing for this group. The party consisted of a bunch of really fun characters, but the ones that I'm going to be focusing on today are a mesmerist, who was a tiefling, which is kind of, for those not familiar with Pathfinder, a mental manipulator kind of psychic class, meant more for buffs and debuffs rather than for direct combat. And another character who I believe was a rogue. And if I get that wrong, the player will probably beat me up for it, but that's okay. It was a long time ago. I hope she can forgive me. Now, Talengard is a lawful good, which is to say, very, the people there are very kind, they're very self-sacrificing. Although Talengard itself has a bit of a xenophobia problem, they only worship one god, Mitra, who was created for the sake of the campaign. And like a lot of lawful good gods, Mitra is all about the endless crusade against evil, which is a problem when you're evil. The group had to be very careful, and as a part of that, their employer gave them all hats of disguise, which are basically little circlets, headbands, pins, whatever. They can magically change into whatever they need to be to suit the costume. That will change your appearance to whatever race you want to be, whatever gender, and whatever size you would like to be, to a certain extent. I think you can be 6 inches taller or shorter or something like that. And it's, of course, an illusion effect, which means that you got to be careful not to bump into people and things like that, or else they might realize, oh, why does this teenage girl have like super pointy elbows that feel like full plate? So the whole party's disguised, and they're disguised to look like a family and a couple of family friends, or a butler, or things like that. And they moved into this small town under the guise of wanting to just sort of ply their trades. I believe they were a trading family, they pretended to be. And to show off, they bought a little manor for themselves, and everyone in the town was very excited to have these new people, because it was a small kind of remote town. They were happy to have new neighbors, and were kind of incessantly neighborly with them, which is funny to have when you know that the insane orc barbarian is the only one at home, and like the high priest shows up to offer cookies or something like that. It's a fun little role-playing experience. But that's not what we're talking about today, no. For you see, the group had already kind of messed up. The group had taken off their disguises in the middle of the night, and because they knew that there were powerful magic items being held in storage in the town hall, and they wanted them for their own evil purposes. And so they broke in, killed a bunch of guards, got the items, which were extremely valuable for their level, I must say, got out, and they thought they'd gotten away from it scot-free because there were no witnesses or anything like that. Turns out, the day after, hey, guess what? Mass murder of guards, that gets around in a very peaceful country like Talengard. And the high priest decided to cast Speak with Dead, which is a spell that allows you to talk to an intact person's head, even if it can be attached to the body, it doesn't have to be a severed head, and ask them questions. And the group didn't think about that. So the priest asked, hey, who are these people? Who killed you? Who could have done this? And the head replied that it was a group of Forsaken, which is to say, see, these characters, like I said, they were all convicts. They were all escaped prisoners. And when you perform horrific deeds in Talengard, what they do is they brand your arm with a big runic F for Forsaken. And by doing that, by taking off their disguises, they had accidentally shown off that there was a bunch of escaped super dangerous convicts in the area, and everyone in the town freaks out. The town guard gets summoned, they start patrolling everywhere, and the group thought, well, okay, that's bad, but we still have our magical disguises, we can keep them on permanently. No one suspects the family that we're impersonating yet, so let's just keep going about our day. And that would be the case if there was not also a level, I want to say 5 or 6 wizard that is part of the castle garrison who decided to start patrolling as well, because he figured that there was probably magic afoot. And so what he did was he cast Detect Magic on himself, which is a 0 level spell, you can do it as many times as you want per day, and went with a complement of guards just walking down the street every once in a while. And whenever something pinged his magic, he would tell people, hey, stop. And he goes to inspect whatever magic thing it is, and the group was kind of caught by surprise. 2 members of the group, walking down the street, the mesmerist and the rogue, I think, ended up running afoul of this wizard, and they were confused at first until they realized, oh yeah, it's a magic hat. It dings as magic. And when they realized that they were in that kind of trouble, well, the wizard said, hey, everybody stop, first of all, because Detect Magic just notices the presence of magic at first, doesn't pinpoint it. And so they stopped, and everyone in the area, in the street, stopped. And then the wizard sort of turns his head to those 2. And he says, hey, guards, go over there. And they all walk over there, point their weapons. The wizard walks up too. And he says, excuse me, what's with those magic hats that you have on. And the group was like, or the two of them were like, oh no. They didn't say anything at first. And then the wizard demanded that they take the hats off, which would dispel the effect. The two characters were disguised as a father and a son. The mesmerist was a bit older, and the rogue was a younger character. And so the rogue was able to, more easily make himself shorter, make himself appear younger, and so they decided to go by that. And as a GM, at the time, I was only thinking of what the NPCs would do in the given situation, and not really how the players would be able to respond to it effectively. I knew that the NPCs would, hold them up if they suspected magical activity. It's a small town, magic items are very rare, not to mention magic items were stolen from the town's, the town hall. God. Anyway, the two characters kind of look at each other, and the mesmerist is the first one to step up. And he says, okay. And by the way, again, me as GM, I literally had no idea how they could get out of this one. No idea. I thought they were going to get captured. I wasn't going to kill them. I was just going to, they were going to out themselves as tieflings and as magically disguising themselves. People at Talonguard, not great on outsiders, especially ones that are typically construed as being evil people, especially when they are fucking evil. I didn't know how they would get out. I thought they were going to get captured, and the rest of the group would have to save them eventually. And by the way, yeah, he does mind control, but he can't control, everyone. He can't, charm all of the guards and the wizard, especially not when the wizard's probably higher level than them, has a decent will save. He says, okay, please don't freak out, let me say my piece. And so he takes it off, and he reveals himself as a tiefling. Kind of a young adult, middle-aged-ish tiefling man. And he says, and of course all the guards freak out. They point their weapons at his throat. And everyone in the street is shocked. He says, okay, my son and I, we just want to live a peaceful life here in Talonguard. We believe in the goodness of this nation. We don't want to hurt anyone. We just want to live in peace, be good members of society. But we know that because of our outside appearance, we could never be accepted. So we spent a lot of money to try and get disguises for ourselves, to try and blend in with everyone. All that we ever wanted was to feel like we're part of something good, to feel accepted. Which is funny. This is back to being me now. It's funny because, that's the story of a lot of tiefling characters. But in this case, it was a huge fucking lie. And of course, being a huge fucking lie, kind of my duty as a GM to say, well, how convincing did you make this lie? Please roll a bluff check. And he rolled the bluff check. And he got a natural 19, and being a mesmerist, he had a huge bluff modifier. And I was like, great, that's pretty good. Hey, rogue, do you want to assist? And the rogue, he had a pretty good bluff check as well, said yeah. And he rolled, and he had the rogue say, as the little child who still has the hat on, to not show off that he was actually not a little child, please don't hate us. He succeeded. He succeeded in the assist. They ended up rolling such a high number and role-playing that so well that one of the guards in the background started tearing up a little. And a bunch of people, everyone felt so moved. And so they were let off with a warning. The family in general was a little bit more suspicious, but they still weren't suspected of being the criminals. Particularly because, you know, the tiefling covered up the Forsaken brand, and the group, like, he did such a good job of bluffing them that the guards didn't even think to check. And that is possibly one of the best moments of role-playing I've ever seen. It defied my own expectations of how the scene would play out. I didn't even think of it as a possibility for them to get out of that situation without being captured. And it really warms my heart when players can shock me. Because I had been GMing for like 8 years at that point, or maybe 6 years, but regardless, for a long-ass time. And it was so nice and refreshing to see someone do something so out of the blue that even I felt a little bit moved by what happened. And it was like, wow, if only they weren't super fucking evil. I'm gonna try and get a few of these videos out this month. Gonna aim for like 2 a week. And hopefully ProJared someday might drop me a little comment. It'd be nice. I watch his videos a lot. I really appreciate what he says, what he does. I like him playing all those old games. So yeah, go check him out if you haven't. I don't know who would watch my stuff but not watch his, but regardless. Hopefully I'll talk to you guys in a few days. Bye-bye.